Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the City of Sandy Springs Riverfront Vision Plan virtual public meeting. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes to allow other folks to join us. So please stand by, and we'll get started here in a couple minutes. Thank you.
Put a message in the chat to that extent.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to the City of Sandy Springs Riverfront Vision Plan virtual public meeting. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening, and we're excited to share some of the findings that we have to date about the plan and open this up for public input starting this evening. My name is Carlos Perez with Perez Planning and Design, and I'm here with a group from our team, both from the City of Sandy Springs, as well as from Heath and Lineback Engineers that will be helping us present this this evening, and also to facilitate some of the questions that we look forward to getting from you this evening. So with that, I'd like the team to introduce themselves for you as well.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Catherine Mercier-Baggett. I'm with the City of Sandy Springs. I'm the Sustainability Manager, and I am managing this project.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for attending this evening. My name is Dan Coffer, and I'm the city's Community Relations Manager.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Kripsky. I'm with Heath and Lineback Engineers. I'm the project manager for this project, leading the wonderful team in this vision today.
And my name is Patrick Peters. I'm also with Heath and Lineback Engineers. I run our trail department and an engineer on the project.
Thank you, team, for introducing yourself. Now we're almost ready to get started. Before we get started, though, we just want to provide a few housekeeping items. Unfortunately, we're unable to collect live input through this process, given the COVID pandemic, but that doesn't mean we can't answer your questions and get your input. In your screen, if you're connected via this webinar, you should see a Q&A box in the bottom of your screen. What we'd love for you to do is use that to submit questions to our team. And during the process, we're going to try to answer the questions that we can. And then after the presentation, we'll take some time to answer some of the questions that we received live. And if we're unable to answer the questions this evening during the presentation, we'll be getting back to the public with the answers to those questions. So with that, I'd like for us to get started. But before I do, any thoughts from the team? Okay, so I'm going to ask our team to turn their cameras off, and that way you'll be able to see the presentation as well as me sharing that information with you. How we're going to do this evening is we're going to share this combination of using the project website that you may have used already. It's a project website that allows you to provide your input to us, as well as a presentation that takes a presentation that uses information that we have on the website and shares it with you as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen on the project website, so you can see that as well. So right now on your screen, you should see a project website titled Sandy Springs Riverfront Vision Plan. After we're done with this presentation, we're going to send this link to you, and the city will also have this link available to you in their project website. So that way you can log in and share your inputs. This evening, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this website with you to show you how to use it. Many of you might have used this already to share input in the past, so this will be a reminder. But we're going to do that for a little bit, and then we're going to transition to share the findings that we have today. So, as a reminder, why are we doing this plan? Well, as we all know, the Chattahoochee River is one of the city's greatest natural resources. However, despite improvements to its use, it's still an underutilized element in the city. So the idea behind this plan is to explore the potential for improving access, connectivity, and activation along the city's waterfronts. If you want to learn more about that, you can click on this image here, and you can see that it opens up to provide you with additional information. If you continue to scroll down, it tells you a little bit more about the process and timeline. Again, if you click on here, it provides you a little bit more information about the process, and even a video from the previous public engagement strategy that we completed that walks you through that as well. But as you may know and have seen before, this is a project that we started about 10 months ago. Really two key phases, existing conditions and technical analysis phase, which took us through about May. And then we started this preliminary vision phase that started around June. And we've already shared some of those findings with you before and collected your input, some of which we're going to be sharing with you again this evening. And now we're entering what we're calling the final vision phase. And we look forward to sharing that with you tonight and getting your input. And if you want, again, you can click on this bar right here, and it provides you more information about that first phase, what we heard from you, and even you can see some of the comments that the public provided previously as well. As you enter this website, we also ask you that you please sign in if you haven't done so in the past, and that way we can get back to you with any updates on the project. But tonight is really about sharing what we're calling conceptual vision plans for the 3 sites that we had shared with you before. And so what we did is, and you'll see this in the presentation here in a second, we took the comments that we heard from the public and we expanded on the ideas a little bit to get your input on it. So what we're gonna ask for you to do is when you get to this website, you can click on any of these tabs where it says explore to open up these concepts and review them. So for example, you can click this one, and this takes you to the Morgan Falls Regional Riverfront Park, which we're calling it. And the really great thing about this website is that it allows you to add a comment anywhere on the page, wherever you want. So if you wanted to make a comment here on this page, you literally just click on it, you type in your name, email, and then add a comment, and it records it. Additionally, wherever you see this icon, and there's a few areas in all these presentations where you will see this icon, it's an opportunity for you to share and respond to some questions that we've developed for you. So when you review this on your own time, there's an opportunity there for you to share your thoughts. You can even download this document if you wish to print out and look in more detail by clicking this download button. So with that, let me transition now to the presentation and take you through each of these sites and share some of these ideas with you. So give me 1 second while I create a new share. And that way we can get to the presentation. So at the moment, you should be seeing a PDF document that says Morgan Falls Riverfront Regional Park Conceptual Vision, Step 3A. And so the next slide is a reminder of our process. So the whole point of Step 3 is to take the findings from Step 1, so the existing conditions analysis, the technical analysis, the findings from Step 2, which is the public input that we received from you, and combine it to then share some conceptual visions for each of those sites, combined with the public input as well as some of the thoughts from our team as well. So on this slide here, you can see the 3 sites that you've seen before: Morgan Falls, Roswell Road, and Crooked Creek. Here, right now, we're gonna focus on Morgan Falls, and then we'll continue to the rest of them as well. And a reminder for everyone that's watching, these are not intended to be future design plans. These are really intended to stimulate thought and dialogue about these ideas. And if it's desirable by the city and residents, then the city would take up and do individual plan and design strategies and initiatives to further take these to another level. But again, these are intended really just to get stimulate some thought and dialogue. So let's get into this. This is a reminder of the image that you've seen before, which shows the Morgan Falls riverfront area and the area that we are considering. This is a close-up view of it. It shows the aerial of the site, as well as the existing facilities and spaces that you see there. So we have the Morgan Falls Overlook Park area. We have the Morgan Falls River Park and Dog Park, the Morgan Falls Athletic Complex, and the Steel Canyon Golf Course. And then you may remember seeing these images as well. These were the Riverfront Park concepts. These were just diagrams of beginner ideas that we had developed in combination with our technical advisory committee, as well as staff, and just our ideas, just really some preliminary ideas to share with the public. And we had some really great responses from residents and interested public that we wanted to share this with you this evening. So for the most part, what we heard that there was a positive support for this preliminary vision, and there was an interest to see a balance of amenities in this area. And you can see some of the ones that were mentioned in the area for this space. So desire for a large lawn, seating and picnic facilities, trails being permeable, more parking permeable, and protection of natural areas and water quality was a big desire. But we also heard some folks say that there was really no need for additional amenities in this site, and they wanted to leave the golf course alone. There was also some concern about private property impacts. And some folks felt this was the wrong location for improvements due to the water quality, the presence of utility lines, et cetera. So based on this input, what we did is come up with, again, a conceptual vision for what this site could be. And so the idea here, and the point of this plan, is to test an idea, right? And that's what we're going to continue to say throughout this evening. These are really just tests of idea. And in this particular site, it's taking the various contiguous spaces that you see in this area: the Morgan Falls Overlook Park, the Dog Park, the Georgia Morgan Falls Hydro Plant area, the Steel Canyon Golf Course, the Sandy Springs Recycling Center, and the Morgan Falls Athletic Complex, and test this idea of reimagining it as an interconnected 200-acre regional park with a variety of amenities for families and users of all ages. And so the next series of slides, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in into these different areas and explain them in a little more detail. And again, as you're reviewing this in your own time, you can add comments in anywhere on this page to let us know what you think. But what we did is we organized this around 4 areas that we're going to zoom in on and provide you with a little bit more detail. You have Area A, which we're calling the Morgan Falls Overlook area; Area B, which we're calling the Morgan Falls Riverfront area; and then C and D, which is really taking this Morgan Falls Meadow and Activity area, as we're calling it, and just zooming in a little bit to explain it in more detail. So again, what I'm going to do now is explain each one of these, and we're going to start with the Morgan Falls Overlook Park. So there's a zoom up of that area. And again, what this does is it tests the idea of expanding the nature trails. There's already a series of nature trails here in this wooded area, and expanding them where appropriate. And ultimately also proposing this idea of adding a tall observation tower at the top to allow visitors a view of this area. The existing park would be left alone. It's really just an opportunity to connect to and provide some amenities in this area, and also create additional nature trails where appropriate, and connect further to the east. And so what some imagery of what this could look like is observation tower at the top of the hill, and then some expanded nature trails. And by expanded, you see this image here that just says that wherever appropriate, we add more trails just to provide some access to the unique areas in this particular spot. So that's the Morgan Falls overlook area. Now let's talk about the Morgan Falls Riverfront area, which is again this zoomed in version right here. And again, what this does is it tests the idea of redesigning the park to enhance the park's natural environment and the user experience. And so a few things that we're considering and we're testing is the idea of redesigning the boating area and enhancing that experience. To do that, we'd also look to relocate the park. So that way we can allow the park road to move away from the water and still maintaining the same amount of parking spaces that are there. And also looking at creating some kind of natural play area along this part of the park as well. We would also look to restore this edge condition here and provide ecologically sensitive access to it, and expand potentially the overlook that's there right now, maybe at a pavilion and even the pier area to get people further into the park. And the idea here is that any concrete that's used is all pervious to help with that water quality in the area. And then the path trails that are currently being worked on would happen here on the east side of the park. So just some imagery that shows what this could look like: the expanded overlook, the Georgia Power easement steps, pedestrian connection going up that hill, some green infrastructure to help with water quality, some land art and public art, multi-purpose open spaces, and just some images of what a natural play area could look like in this space, as well as access to that edge. And some of these images you'll see were taken from the Chattahoochee Riverlands project. As many of the initiatives that were proposed through that effort, this is an opportunity to implement them in this area as well. So this is imagery for that Morgan Falls Riverfront area. Now let's look at the activity area, what we're calling the Morgan Falls Meadow and Activity Area. So again, this tests the idea of transforming the existing Steel Canyon Golf Club course into an interconnected system of multi-purpose open spaces, grass meadows linked with permeable roads and parking and multi-purpose trails and soft surface nature trails. And so there'd be areas that we could use as both multi-purpose open space as well as areas for potentially major events. I think the key here is that there are many areas in this that we wouldn't be able to plant trees due to the landfill cap. So the idea would be to potentially add some pavilions where possible to add some space for shade and gathering areas. So what that could look like, again, these are just some imagery. The idea of taking the existing driving range and maybe adding an entertainment component to it, turning it also into a community center with different activities. Multi-purpose open spaces just for events as well as for a variety of uses. And really creating and using the topography to create a network of multi-purpose trails that take you through the landscape and using different type of grasses, both for remediation as well as for landscape and enhancement of that area. If we go to the second part of this meadow and activity area, what you'll see is that this continues to test the ideas that we talked about before, but it also looks at adding a dog park along Morgan Falls Road, so right up here. And then expanding the existing recycling center to include an educational component to it. And then exploring the idea of creating some nature trails along this part of the hill here, as well a pedestrian connection up to the athletic area. And the idea too is throughout these concepts, public art and interpretive signs would be included throughout this space. So some of the imagery of what this could look like is dog parks along Morgan Falls Road and under the utility lines, nature trails in some of those areas, a pedestrian connection up to the athletic area, and then looking at the recycling, looking at expanding the recycling center and potentially adding an educational component to it. So at this point, this is where you would see, if you're on the website, you would see the icon here that asks you to share your thoughts. And there's some questions that we've developed for you that we'd love to have you share your thoughts on. And with that, it gives you a link to go to the next concept that we're going to transition to. So if you click on Roswell Road, Riverfront Park, it'll take you to the next concept. Again, Roswell Road, Riverfront Conceptual Vision. And again, you'll see some of the slides that you've seen already, just as a reminder, in case folks skip Morgan Falls and they go straight to Roswell Road, it's able to remind them of the process and what they saw before and what we're doing now. So again, these are slides that you've seen already, but again, serve as a reminder of what step 3 is about, which is really taking the findings from step 1 and 2, and then suggesting some conceptual visions. A disclaimer that reminds folks that these are not future design plans. This is really just vision plans to stimulate thought that may lead to additional planning efforts in the future should residents in the city desire to do so. And then a reminder of the site. So this is a site that's off of Roswell Road and the Chattahoochee River just before the bridge on the west side. This is an aerial of it, and it's really focused on this area that you see here in that red. And you may recall this diagram that we shared with you in the past that looked at creating some nature trails and access points along the river, looking at some kind of mixed-use commercial recreational space somewhere along here, and then connecting it to the already proposed multi-purpose trail that would happen along here. That was part of the city's citywide trails master plan. And then also being mindful of the proposed bridge that's happening along the Chattahoochee River and how this could connect to that. And this is what we heard from the public. Again, mostly positive support for this idea. Some of the amenities that residents mentioned they'd be interested in seeing. So unique riverfront restaurant and shopping, parking, diverse parking, make it permeable, more bicycle and pedestrian facilities, more trails permeable. But then we also had some folks that said that they weren't interested in seeing a commercial development area there and just keeping it natural. And then minimizing parking or no parking, and then letting us know that this area, getting to it can be very difficult with the existing roads and also the water levels as well. So based on these ideas, what we did is test this idea of creating a network of nature trails, docks, natural river drop-in areas, and river outlooks anchored by mixed-use commercial recreational development within the parcels that we're able to develop based on the MERPA guidelines. And that's for those of you that may not know, the Metropolitan River Protection Act guidelines. And so for this area, there's 3 concepts that we developed in this area that we're going to share with you this evening and get your input. But before we get to there, we wanted to talk about some of the ideas and imagery associated with this part of the plan. And so what you're seeing here is this idea of nature multi-purpose trail along the easement. So there's an existing easement that goes along here. So the idea of creating some multi-purpose use nature trails along that, some natural drop-in areas and docks along the river, and then some natural trails within the existing canopy, all of which would connect to that existing trail that's proposed here. And so this is some of the imagery associated with this particular portion of it. So again, some of these images are coming from the Riverlands study, the Chattahoochee Riverlands study. So again, it's an opportunity to test these and implement them in this area. Images of the multi-purpose nature trail, the nature trail within the existing tree canopy, and then some of the drop-in areas and even docks that could happen. But what we'd like to do now is zoom in into this little area right here, which we're calling the Riverfront Redevelopment area, and share 3 concepts with you that we're testing in this area. The first one is this idea of creating 1 to 2 story building with about a 3,000 square foot building footprint. It would, based on what we're able to develop, we would have enough room for about 8 parking spaces. This is item number 10 that you see here, so parking lot permeable. And then a drop-off or staging area in this location. Now, in order to provide additional parking for this area, we're also testing this idea of using some of this right-of-way space of Roswell Road, creating a median, and using that space to create an access road right here and some parallel parking spaces that would give us around 14 spaces. Now, it's important to note that we're not removing capacity. This concept does not remove capacity from Roswell Road, existing capacity. All it does, it takes existing space to provide these additional spaces. We would add a controlled intersection here on Roberts Drive that would allow safe crossing. And then we would also create a multi-purpose trail connection under the bridge that would connect us to the proposed pedestrian bridge over Chattahoochee River to enhance pedestrian connectivity. We're also proposing what we're calling an urban river outlook next to Roswell Road right here to provide connections to the river. So some imagery of what this could look like. This idea of creating a 1 to 2 story mixed use commercial and recreation building, done very light materials for this area. And then images of that trail underpass, the nature trails, the parallel on-street parking with a frontage road on Roswell Road. So as you can see, this would be the main traffic, and then there'd be that frontage road separated by a median with parallel parking. And then just the concept of what that urban river overlook next to Roswell Road could potentially look like. So that's alternate 1. Now let's look at alternate 2. And what this does is it borrows a lot of the concepts that we shared already. So the additional parking on Roswell Road with the median, the connectivity and controlled intersection on Roberts Drive, the connection across the river, and urban river overlook next to the creek. But what it does is it looks at another strategy for development in this area here. And what it does is it tests this idea of creating of docking of riverboat or a barge along the riverbanks of the Chattahoochee River and converting that into a recreational commercial establishment in lieu of a building on site. So essentially what we do is that parking would still be the same. It'd be 8 spaces. The 9 here refers to the legend. There'd be a drop-off spot, and there'd be a turnaround area here for drop-off, and then a connection to the dock that would get you on this riverboat or barge. And then again, some examples of what that could look like. Riverboat that provides food or beverages, and even a barge that itself could have some green space element to it. So you get your food, you come hang out in the barge with green space, and even have connections, kayak and boating connections onto the barge. So again, just another alternative for your consideration, and we look forward to getting your feedback. And as a reminder, when you do this in Conveo on the project website, you'll be able to put comments anywhere on here and let us know what you think. All right, let's go to the final alternative for this redevelopment area that we're calling the Riverfront Redevelopment area. So again, this borrows a lot of the concepts that you've seen before, the on-street parking along Roswell Road, the controlled intersection, the pedestrian bridge across the river, even the nature trails in this area. But what this does is it tests the idea of creating 2, 3 to 5 story connected tiered buildings. So we're using the available space that we can develop and creating 3 to 5 story buildings that are connected, and creating some kind of mixed use, again, commercial, recreational space on here. The first floor would be for delivery and support services. There could be parking again on Roswell Road. But the difference here is that we would create a connection from the development, little turnaround area to provide drop off, a sidewalk connection, and then a connection into the existing development itself. And again, these are just some imagery of what this tier development could look like. The idea of using very light materials, something that blends into the landscape, minimal, as much as can be done, minimal impact to the environment, and then opportunities to really enjoy that canopy as well. So again, all concepts designed to stimulate thought and get your reaction on these things and these concepts and ideas. So at this point, we would look for you to, there's an icon here that you'll see that says share your thoughts. There's some specific questions that we've prepared for you, and we'd love to get your feedback. This one is specifically designed for this area here. That's why you see that it's grayed out right here, because on the next slide, we have an opportunity for you to share your thoughts on these specific, on the 3 individual concepts, and let us know what you think about that. So now we're moving to the third and final site, the Crooked Creek Conservation Park. So again, when you're on the website, you'd be able to click on here and it takes you to that to that third concept, which is the Crooked Creek Conservation Park conceptual vision. Many of the same slides you saw before, just reminding you about step 1 and step 2 and what step 3 is all about, which is creating concepts based on the findings for the first steps and public input. A disclaimer reminding you that these aren't final future design plans, or just ideas to stimulate thought for additional planning consideration. And then remind you of this imagery that you may have seen before, of where it's located in the city and some of the analysis that we did before. Close-up aerial that shows the context of this. So it's interesting site in that we're next to additional recreational resources, Girard Landing and the Chattahoochee River Natural Recreation Area, and Holcomb Bridge Park as part of Gwinnett County. And then the concept that we had shared with you before, this diagrammatic vision that says that we would expand on some of the work that the city's implementing right now, and then explore other opportunities to expand on those experiences. And based on this particular input, or this diagram, we received some input from the community. And again, mostly positive support for this vision. What we heard is that there's interest in seeing boardwalk trails and views of the river, preservation of natural environment and trees, low impact facilities, opportunities for wetland restoration, green infrastructure. Some folks said they wanted to see more parking, permeable parking. But then we had other folks that said they'd like to see limited to no parking due to the impacts of the natural environment and to the water quality. So again, based on these findings, what we did was develop this conceptual vision that tests the idea of taking 4 adjacent sites: the Crooked Creek Park that's currently under construction now, the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, Girard Landing, and Holcomb Bridge Park, and connecting them through a network of trails to create an integrated 50-acre conservation and educational park. So again, this vision expands on the existing trail and parking lot that's being designed and built by the city right now, and proposes to create 2 riverboard overlook boardwalks along the river, and an additional park access area from Holcomb Bridge Road. So again, just defining these a little bit, these are the areas that are currently being built right now. As part of this this vision, we test this idea of creating river boardwalk overlooks over the river, and then creating a connection to this particular area. We're going to zoom in right now and share with you in more detail that looks at connecting these sites together. So if you go to the next page, it zooms in on this area, the area that for this vision plan we're calling the Holcomb Bridge Landing. And what this tests is this idea of developing a small park access point along Holcomb Bridge Road with a small parking area, some trails and exercise stations, all within the parcels that we're able to develop within FERPA guidelines. It tests this idea of connecting this part of the park to the existing work that's being done right now, the nature trails, and also even providing a connection to the residential development below. And then also test the idea of creating a trail that crosses the river and connects to Girard Landing across the river. And then using a multi-purpose trail, floating trail, which we'll see in a second, to connect under the river and then connect to to Holcomb Bridge Landing, Holcomb Bridge Park over here on the west. And again, the idea is to, throughout this, include public art and interpretive signs throughout this process. Some imagery of what this could look like. So boardwalk trails that would look something like this, exercise stations, a floating multi-purpose trail that allows for it to rise and fall based on the river levels, nature trails, river boardwalk overlooks, the trail underpass, and then just an idea of resource-based public art that could happen in this area. And then again, at this point, we'd love for you to share your thoughts. When you see this in the website, there'll be a comment icon here where you can click on and share your input. And then throughout any of these pages in the website, you'll be able to click and write anything, any comment that you would like on the page. After we're done with this presentation, again, City's gonna share the link to this website, so then you're able to participate in the process. And then after this, it takes you the conclusion disclaimer, which says that, again, that these are not intended for future design plans. and that if things were to move forward, there'd be additional work associated with that. So what are next steps after this? What I'd like to do now is go back to the project website. If you just give me 1 second to get situated and take you back there to show you what the next steps would be. And then we're gonna finish the presentation and then look at any questions that we can answer live. So let me take you to the website. So again, this is at the bottom of the website, but it says what's next. Well, we're gonna keep public input open on this website till next Wednesday, the 4th, and then we'll review the feedback and then include that in the report and make any final recommendations based on that feedback to the city for their consideration. You can also, part of that website at the end, you can fill out a comment card, send it our way. You can also contact us. If you go to the top, there's a contact us link that you can click, and you can either fill this out here or send an email directly to this email right here. It'll go directly to the team. So with that, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna ask the other team members to join me and turn their cameras on so folks can see us. And we'll see if there's any questions that haven't been answered yet that we'd like to discuss.
Hey, Carlos, thank you so much. We do have a few questions and actually some comments. So one of the questions is relating to cost. And also there's a question about the trail connection to what has been proposed in the trail master plan. I can definitely address both. So in terms of cost, we're still so early in the process. These are very high level concepts that there is so much work that needs to be done before we can actually get an idea of how much it would cost. And of course, also it depends of the specific design and at what time we're going to develop this, if we ever do. This is a 20-some year vision, so it's not going to happen tomorrow. And then in terms of the trail connections, the proposed connections that we're showing in this project were adopted part of the trail master plan. So that was a previous planning effort that I believe the master plan was adopted last fall, if memory serves me well. So the specific connection that was asked about in the chat is part of a different project. So this current proposed part would tie into it. And I believe, are these all the questions that we have? No, yes. There's another question. Has there been any thought given to building a bike ped bridge at Morgan Falls below the dam to connect the trails on the Cobb County side of the river? You want to address that one, Carlos?
Yes, there has, and something that's been previously proposed, and whatever would happen here, if so, would be connected to that connection, that bridge. It was something that was part of the Riverlands, Chattahoochee Riverlands effort, and something that this plan would include as well.
I do not see any additional questions.
Well, with that, we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening and share your thoughts. We look forward to you sharing additional thoughts as you get some time to really dig into these documents and provide your input. And then we look forward to reviewing that input, including it as part of the plan, and then using that to share any recommendations with the city moving forward. So with that, I'd like to again thank everyone for attending, thank the city for helping us with this presentation, the rest of the team members, and see if there's any additional thoughts before we sign off.
Carlos, Catherine, looks like one more question just popped in.
Okay, great.
Yes, it's actually a really good question. So it's about the southern edge of Sandy Springs, if there's any plans for that area. This particular project really was focused on the North End as part of the North End revitalization effort in combination with other projects as well. Definitely, I don't think that the South Side is forgotten. Definitely, there are some opportunities out there that are worth checking out. But at this time, this specific project was for the North End.
Any other? If there's any additional questions?
Yes. Well, it's a follow-up on the south side of Sandy Springs, that there's very little recreation in this area near Perimeter Mall. That is true, but look forward for Path 400, excuse me, that actually this team has been working on for a good while. So definitely that will be a great opportunity. And then we have a question about who approved the pedestrian bridge. Again, that has not gone through any type really of approval. It is part of plans. It is part of several plans, including the comprehensive plan and also the trail master plan. But in terms of, let's say, permitting, we're definitely not there yet.
Great. See if there's any other questions as part of this presentation. Okay.
We have questions about Path 400, if there's any dates on that. I am not aware of it. Dan Coffer might know, or maybe the team would know.
Path 400 is under design, and parts of its sections are moving forward, moving north from the Buckhead area. It is in program, and it is, like I said, being developed. There'll be some right-of-way acquisition soon, but funding is still to be determined for construction on the extension piece through Sandy Springs.
If there's any additional questions. And thank you for taking the time to ask these questions and for taking the time to join us this evening.
Carlos, did you provide that link to the Conveo site for?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Dan, for that reminder.
Sure.
We can send it to the group right now. So those that are on right now, you'll be receiving a link here shortly in your side of the presentation that will provide you that link. And then we're also going to post that up. City will post that up in the city's website as well. So residents can participate there as well. So let me put this right now. So attendees should be getting a link right now to the Sandy Springs Riverfront Park Conveo document. And again, that's that document that we just presented, and it provides you an opportunity to share your input in the different ways that we shared with you before.
Carlos, we do have one more question.
When you refer to pedestrian bridge at Roswell Road or at Crooked Creek? So the Roswell Road pedestrian bridge is something that's been going on for some years already. It's coordination. It's a project that's being done in coordination with City of Roswell and City of Sandy Springs and others. So I think this team is also working on that. If there's any updates on that in particular.
No, Carlos, you hit it. That's ongoing. It is a joint project with the City of Roswell. And it's in final design. There's still right of way to acquire, so there's still some time in it, but it is moving forward.
Then there was another bridge that was proposed just south of the Morgan Falls Dog Park that crosses the Chattahoochee River to the west, and that's a project that was proposed as part of previous planning efforts, including the Riverland study. So that's something that this plan would also consider. And then, but that hasn't been approved. That's a planning. That's a planning idea. And then the Crooked Creek Bridge is something that's coming as part of this effort. And so we'd love to get your thoughts as well as part of that. Okay. Well, with that, again, we thank you for the opportunity for being here this evening. Again, we look forward to getting your comments through the Conveo site or through your email, the email we provided or comment box, and then using those recommendations to, or that input to inform recommendations. So again, thank you, and thank you for taking the time, and good evening.